And join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll of the members?
Rachel Hulteen. Present. Dan Larson.
Present.
Kathleen Martell.
Here.
Scott Ohm.
Here.
Mike Okada.
Here.
Patrick Quinn.
Present.
Jenny Snell.
Present.
Susan Wood.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Councilors, in your packet, there were meeting minutes for March 23rd, 2026, and special study session notes for March 23rd, 2026. Are there any notes or changes? Seeing none, we'll thank the clerk for hard work on that. We'll go to approval. Under approval of agenda.
Okay.
No. We'll go to approval of agenda. Do we see any changes from the council? Okay. I do have one announcement to read here. It is council's intent to continue tonight's public hearing for Council Bill number 07-2026, an ordinance amending the Wheat Ridge Municipal Code concerning animal welfare to June 8th, 2026, with a study session on May 18th, 2026. So no presentation or testimony will be taken tonight. Councilors, any objection to that? Excellent. We will go to proclamations and ceremonies, and we have a couple of those tonight. If I could have, please, Patricia Riffle join me up here. Tonight we have a proclamation for Child Abuse Prevention Month, April 2026. Whereas every child deserves to grow up in a safe, nurturing environment, free from harm and fear. Every responsible person will agree that even one abused child is too many. And whereas the month of April has been designated nationally as Child Abuse Prevention Month, we encourage all community members to join in renewing our commitment to learning what we can do to promote the safety and well-being of children. And whereas Wheat Ridge has dedicated individuals and organizations who work daily to counter the problem of child abuse and to help the parents obtain assistance they need. And whereas our community is stronger when all community members become aware of child abuse prevention and become involved in supporting parents to raise their children in a safe and nurturing environment. And whereas effective child abuse prevention programs succeed because of partnerships among families, social service agencies, school, religious groups, and civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community. And whereas Ralston House Child Advocacy Center works with law enforcement, child protective services, district attorney's offices in the 1st and 17th judicial districts, and the community to provide a safe place to investigate child abuse and provide victim services for children who have been physically or sexually abused or witnessed violence. Now, therefore, be it resolved, I, Corey Stites, Mayor of the City of Wheat Ridge, and the City Council for Wheat Ridge, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2026 to be Child Abuse Prevention Month, in witness thereof, on this day, the 13th of April 2026. Do you have some more? All right.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this proclamation. Every day at Ralston House, children show an incredible amount of courage. They come to Ralston House and they speak up, they speak out about things that are happening to them. And when a community stands with them, it makes their words even stronger. So tonight, our collaboration is shown with this proclamation, and tonight you really have made your community safer for children. So thank you very much.
And if I could have Bree Miller join me up here. We have a proclamation for Sexual Assault Awareness Month, April 2026, and Colorado Denim Day, April 29th, 2026. Whereas every day, women, men, and children across Colorado suffer the pain and trauma of sexual assault. And whereas sexual violence affects individuals of all ages, backgrounds, and circumstances. And whereas this crime occurs far too frequently, goes unreported far too often, and leaves long-lasting physical and emotional scars. And whereas during National Sexual Assault Awareness Month, we recommit ourselves not only to lifting the veil of secrecy and shame surrounding sexual violence, but also to raise awareness and expanding support for victims. And whereas, at the state level, we must work to provide necessary resources to victims of every circumstance, including medical and mental health services, relocation, and housing assistance and advocacy during the criminal justice process. And whereas, Porchlight Family Justice Center provides comprehensive legal, emotional, and critical supportive services for survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, child abuse, abuse of at-risk individuals, elder abuse, and human trafficking. Now, therefore, be it resolved, I, Corey Stites, Mayor of the City of Wheat Ridge, and the Wheat Ridge City Council, do hereby declare the month of April 2026 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and further recognize April 29th, 2026 as Colorado Denim Day, encouraging Wheat Ridge residents to wear denim to show their support for victims of sexual assault and highlight its issue in our community. In witness thereof, on this 13th day of April, 2026. Would you like to say some words?
I apologize, I'm fighting a cough. But my name is Bree. I'm the lead victim advocate at Victim Outreach. And it's truly an honor for us to walk through these moments with victims of these specific crimes. My apologies. And other crimes, really kind of showcasing the best community of Wheat Ridge and making sure that they're feeling supported with all of the different resources that we have, and partnering with our police department to make sure that they're not left in the dark. As you mentioned, these are kind of unveiled crimes, and it's really hard to report these, so we are honored to be able to support them in those moments. Yeah.
If I could have our city clerk and senior deputy city clerk join me up here.
I have the pleasure of swearing in Orina tonight. Repeat after me and raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Honorina Z. Maloney,
Do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution and the laws of the state of Colorado,
the Constitution and the laws of the state of Colorado,
the charter and ordinances of the city of Wheat Ridge,
the charter and ordinances of the city of Wheat Ridge,
and I will faithfully perform the duties
and I will faithfully perform the duties
of the office of Senior Deputy City Clerk,
of the office of Senior Deputy City Clerk,
upon which I am about to enter,
upon which I am about to enter,
and to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Orina, would you like to say a few?
Oh, wow. Thank you, Madam Clerk, for the honor of this moment. And thank you, Mayor Stites and members of council. When I took my oath as Deputy City Clerk last August, I spoke about serving with purpose and leading with kindness. Well, tonight, those words feel even more personal. I am deeply grateful to the city's leadership, to the community, and to all my colleagues. Your trust means everything to me. And now, one of my favorite parts of tonight, I get to welcome Luz Elena Spalenka into the role that I have so loved. Lucy, as you know, this work is meaningful, the rewards are rich, and we are part of something quite special here in Wheat Ridge. And I know that together we're going to accomplish great things. So it's your turn now to get sworn in. Okay, I'm going to raise your right hand. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, and you will repeat after me. I
I, Lucelena Spalenka,
do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Colorado,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Colorado,
the Charter and ordinances of the City of Wheat Ridge,
the Charter and ordinances of the City of Wheat Ridge,
and will faithfully perform the duties
and will faithfully perform the duties
of the office of Deputy City Clerk
what? Of the office of Deputy City Clerk,
You got this. Good job. Upon which I am about to enter,
upon which I am about to enter,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Hi, everyone. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. I just wanted to say thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to join the Wheat Ridge team and give me a nice landing place. Some of you guys don't know, I just moved here from the other side of the mountain, so we had a little moving going on. So I just want to say thank you to everyone for giving me the opportunity to get here and show you guys what I've got and the great things that our new clerk's office will be bringing to you guys now and in the future. So thank you guys so much. Looking forward to all the things.
Excellent. We will go to our next agenda item, which is public right to speak. People have 3 minutes to speak about any agenda item not on the agenda tonight. When you come up, please introduce yourself, spell your last name for the record, let us know if you live or work in Wheat Ridge, and then you'll have your 3 minutes. There's 3 lights on the clerk's desk there. When it's green, you have about 1.5 minutes. It'll start blinking. It'll go to yellow. You have about 30 seconds to wrap it up. And when it's red, we do ask that you wrap up your comments as quickly as you can. I will call up the first person, and then I'll call up an on-deck person to be ready. I apologize if I mess up your names. I'm doing the best I can. All right. So we will first up, we have Michael Moody with Melody Lucier on deck.
Hello, my name is Michael Moody. My son attends Stevens Elementary in Wheat Ridge. I did send an email to several of you earlier. I did print out a couple of copies. I also have a petition supporting the installation of rumble strips and assignment of crossing guard during school hours near the 38th and High Court intersection. For the sake of brevity, I'll just read the beginning section of my email that's being passed around and then just finish with a couple additional notes. I want to present the current crossing issues at 38th and High Court. And over the last year, Wheat Ridge has generously built the green at 38th as a community meeting spot for residents, families, and guests of the area. And it'll undoubtedly increase pedestrian and bike traffic in the Stevens corridor and support nearby businesses, which is desirable. It's what we want. Like the investment in the recently developed Wadsworth corridor, another example of Wheat Ridge's dedication to continuing its growth. Unfortunately, traffic violators have made the intersection of 38th and High Court unsafe for the visitors, including students and parents walking to Stevens Elementary. Now, recently, a Stevens student was nearly hit and killed by a speeding eastbound driver with no regard for the red light, even though the mother and student had the right of way. Several days later, another eastbound red light offender T-boned a family car turning left from the school. The next day, yet another eastbound vehicle ran a red light and was issued a ticket, luckily. Now, anyone that has traveled eastbound, the blinding sunrise is only one of the many factors in the morning and also the afternoon contributing to the trend. Now, we could become 29th and Denver and put speed bumps along the route, and I would not ask that of any of you, but rumble strips could be an option. And prior to the stoplight on each side may physically signal to the driver that they are now in a school park zone. While Wheat Ridge's existing traffic patterns, lights, and signs provide some indication of a nearby school and park, is ineffectively minimize these violations. And the assignment of a crossing guard would allow safe passage for families before and after school, providing an additional layer of safety. But just to talk quickly about, I already know some of the challenges here, budget and liability. The school will not cover a crossing guard for Wheat Ridge property. So it falls on the city of Wheat Ridge. If you look at schools within 10 minutes, Rocky Mountain Prep Berkeley, you also have Centennial, we also have Lombard and Edgewater, all have crossing guards. Lombard taken one step further in Edgewater with a roundabout, and then you also have speed bumps as well. Now, Centennial in Denver, the reason why they have such a dedicated crossing guard is because their child was actually hit and killed outside the school there. So I just want you to keep this in mind as you review, I think my time is up, but review the petition, which is a reflection of the 14 businesses that I visited over the weekend and the challenges they've faced over the last 10 years with the traffic patterns and the unsafe conditions for their customers. So thank you for your time. And of course, thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you. Up next, we have Melanie Lucier with Greg Primavera on deck.
Hello and good evening. My name is Melody Lucier, Lucier. We live in Wheat Ridge and I work in Denver. So I live near Stephen Elementary and the Green on 38th. Our family walks to school every day, and this area has become a true community hub for students, families, and local businesses. But the safety at the intersection of 38th and North High Court remains a serious concern. My son and I were almost hit in the crosswalk while crossing legally on our way to school. The individual was driving a car that appeared to be going over 20 miles per hour and went through the red light, and I don't think they even saw us. Within weeks, there was also a T-bone collision at the same intersection, among other close calls and incidences. I'm here to highlight the concern on behalf of my neighborhood, but also to show my son that when something isn't safe, we speak up. I want him to grow up seeing that when something isn't safe, the Wheat Ridge community comes together to fix it. Thank you to Stevens Elementary and to the city for the steps taken so far. We have seen some changes. I'm grateful to be a part of the Stevens Safe Walking and Biking crew, and we look forward to partnering with the city-appointed 38th Main Street Refresh Consultant Team. As this partnership gets underway, we'd appreciate contact information for this group and clear specific roles and responsibilities of that consultant team versus what the city might manage versus where we can help. Ultimately, we all share the same goal, creating a safer environment for our students, our neighbors, and the businesses that make this area so special. Thank you for your time and your continued commitment to our community.
Thank you. We have Greg Primavera next and Gretchen Jostin next on deck.
Greg Primavera, Primavera, and I live in Wheat Ridge. I'm here again for Lakeside Car Wash. He wrote on his website last year, a small vocal group of locals have convinced your city council to threaten our ability to continue operations even though we operate below the legal decibel level. As a Colorado-owned and operated business, we take great pride in being part of the community. I don't think he does. He keeps on doing stuff that we asked him to do, close the North Bay doors. Doesn't happen. The do not enter signs going into Gray Street, they're taken down. They've always been taken down. Why do we have to keep on fighting for what we want? We were here and they come onto our property and we are the problem? No, we're not the problem. We are trying to get a resolution for the problem that they created. How can we live with the noise and everything else like that? When can we get some resolution? He's not a community person. Out at 38th, it's Clancy's. The owner goes around and says, oh, he's showing respect to the neighbors. What respect do we have? We have none. This has been going on for a year. When is it going to stop? When can we get some resolution on everything that we want? We're not wanting to shut them down. We want the noise to stop. If we have to get a petition, I will get a petition, and I'll get more people in here because on the north side of 44th, there was more people complaining, and they have not come forward yet. I will get more people around here. My daughter was down at Walmart. She says, man, that is loud. He does not close those bay doors. Is there a resolution for that? I don't know. Close them. So we don't have to keep on coming back and making our voices being heard. The small vocal ones, we're the small vocal ones. He's the one that's loud, not us. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Gretchen Jostin up, and I believe it's Phyllis on deck.
I just have copies of the letter I wrote in the Wheat Ridge Gazette, if I could. And I didn't copy it right, so I'm going to just read the last part and stick with that, just kind of what we're wanting, because it's been over a year. We haven't been here for 5 months because we took Wheat Ridge at their word that things would happen and nothing's happened. It's the exact same way. Now all 3 bay doors are open and we're back to where we were at the very beginning, minus 1 bay door. So we're just really frustrated at this point that it's taken this long. This was gracefully printed in the Wheat Ridge Gazette, which we're very grateful for. We asked the Community Development Director, Lauren Mahalsik, City Manager Patrick Goff, and Wheat Ridge City Council for a return to peace now. We asked for both the entrance and exit doors to be required to be closed during the full wash and dry operation per their June 24th citation. We asked for actual mitigation of the noise along the east and north property lines, not just the south. We asked for operation of the car wash to be from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the latest per Colorado State Revised Statute 2512-103. We asked for what we were promised during the city-sponsored Zoom call of neighbors: no entrance from Gray Street and no noise pollution in our neighborhood. We asked the city to step up and make things right for a poor decision to allow this huge non-compliant car wash 100 feet from residential neighborhood. We asked the city to mandate this mitigation before auto wash business is allowed to continue to operate in non-compliance, which they are and have been for the last 14 months, and specifically since they reopened without telling anyone 5 months ago. Nothing has changed. They put up a fence along Jan's property line, no mitigation toward my property or anyone on the other side, no readings from my property, no readings from the property where they took the initial readings that read, I think you can see that 93 decibels and 82 from the front and the back where the bay doors are. They didn't do readings from there in their follow-up sound study. We're just asking for a scientific way to go about this. And right now, It's not happening. The study that was provided by the city was not adequate. They did not notify us as we were told that we would be notified. And they took random readings around. They didn't say, oh, all bay doors were open or all bay doors were closed. We're just asking for science. We're asking for a measured way to go about this and the doors to be closed. It's really simple. We need your help.
Thank you. I can't make up the first name, so Neitzold is the last name, and then we have Jan Fancinelli on deck.
Hi, my name is Chris Neitzold. Do you need me to spell the last name? It's N as in Nancy, I-E-T-Z-O-L-D. I live in Wheat Ridge, currently in flight school. Why am I still here, guys? Why do I have to keep coming back? I don't want to have to bring a speaker in so you guys get the point every single time, and we sit here for 3 minutes listening to what we're subjected to listen to day in and day out. I had a business in Virginia. I didn't get a special use permit because this little town had the foresight to not allow me a special use permit to put up a sign because they thought at some time in the future they might have to expand the road. You guys have given a special use permit that gives them carte blanche. You know, it must be nice to be the owners, to continue to make money, to not have to show up here in front of all these people every time, taking out a time that I could be studying like today. But no, I'm here addressing this issue. Again, the definition of insanity, continuing to do the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. It must be, I wish I could stand up here like Ralston House and thank you for supporting us, but I can't. I can't. To the parents asking about the rumble strips, good luck. Good luck. If our experience is any indication of what the city of Wheat Ridge does for individuals, good luck. 14 months, that's where we're at. What are we going to do? We have legal counsel. Is there nothing we can do? Listen to this. Right now. Do you hear this? I'll stop talking for a second so we can hear this. This is not what I get to hear at my house. I don't get to enjoy the silence that I create when I shut my mouth. Must be nice to be everybody else. I wish I was sitting in your shoes, not being subjected to this. Can we get a resolution, please? I don't want to have to come next month, and the month after, and the month after that. But you guys will, if our experience is any indication. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jan Fasinelli up. And then we'll go to Zoom after that.
Hello, and thank you for what you've been trying to do. I know it's the same, some of the same things. It's been a year. We've been coming. We get really hopeful. We feel like you're really on our side. You're fighting for us. And then this last month, I'm feeling like maybe we've just been shoved aside. We asked for the city to do a sound study that was going to really show what was going on. And we all met one morning. Rachel was there, everybody was there. Aaron from the car wash was there. It was a wonderful meeting of minds, differences, and they had somebody break it, a big truck ran into one of their bays and broke it down, so we couldn't do the sound study. So we made an agreement. They would figure out when we could do it again, and we would all be notified. Well, they had a sound study. We found out none of us were invited to be there to make sure our wants for this sound study were done, that we could see it with all doors open, doors closed, open, just 1, 2, or 3, so you could get really accurate measurements of what the noise levels really are. I went and stood on the corner. I sent it to Rachel the other day and Scott. I stood on the corner and it was, I have a little decibel meter on mine, it was over 85 with one bay going with the doors open. The fence they put up, according to the sound study that you guys just did, said the person who did it said that the fence they put up between my property and the car lot was nothing but a decorative fence. It was not a sound fence. A sound fence would have to be 4 feet higher to be effective. When you look at the east side of this car wash, there's no fence protecting my neighbors. And the fence they have, it's not really a fence, it's a wall with wires so the sound can go right through on the front east part of their fence. I mean, there's so much mitigation they could do, and they aren't doing it. And the other confusing part I have is that we were told way back when this started that the special use permit was the key. If they didn't meet all these obligations, the special use permit would not be renewed, and that was going to be our ace in the hole. So then this last time we get the news that, well, it really isn't. They don't even have a special use permit. So we don't know if they have one or they don't have one, or what's the next step on this. So we feel like we've been out of the loop. We're all fed up, and I don't know what you guys as a group can do to help us. The noise is still coming, and the doors are down. There's no issue. You can't hear it. It's like it was before. I can do my veterinary work, and I can do my consults, and my clients aren't upset, my patients aren't upset. But once those doors are open, it just comes through the window, it comes through the wall, and it is just, we're over it. I don't know what to do from here, but I hope you can help.
Thank you. We'll go to Zoom, and we have Sandra Sands.
Mr. Mayor, the speaker is not online.
Okay, we don't have Sandra on. The other person I have signed up is Gretchen Jostin, but she's here, so probably not.
Thank you.
So we have nobody else signed up for public comment. We also take public comment on our special study session right now, and I have nobody signed up for that. So we will go ahead and move on from our public comments, and I will recognize Mayor Pro Tem Hulteen.
Thank you. I'd like a point of order to address the neighbors about the car wash. First of all, it's extraordinarily painful that you guys have to be coming in here still. When we met, I think it was in January, and we actually talked about this sound study and actually looked at a map, and we all came to agreement about the process and the fact that the sound engineer did not actually follow the agreed upon promise was extraordinarily disappointing to myself. I won't speak for my co-counselor Scott on this, but that methodology was agreed to build trust and confidence in the results. That having been said, there have been actions. We haven't just sat here and done nothing for a year, but we have not resolved the situation, and that is clear. So I'd like to invite the city manager to talk about what some next steps are. I'm not sure if any of you have talked with Lauren. I had asked her to reach out and connect with you guys to give you some technical details, but I think it would be helpful for the city manager to talk about some next steps, because there are some tangible next steps that have teeth that we can do as a council and we can do as a city. So City Manager Patrick Goff.
Yeah, thank you, Councilwoman. And Mr. Dahl can pipe in as well. Lauren is not here this evening, but she gave me some updates, and Lauren has been communicating with Gretchen through email. And we've heard the concerns, and I feel the same. It's way too long, and we don't believe any more sound studies are required at this point. We've been going down the route of technical noise standards, but we need to reevaluate this through the lens of the special use permit. There is a special use permit for this business, and so that process to go through the special use permit focuses on whether a use as operated is compatible with the surrounding area and consistent with the original approval. The car wash was approved through special use permit, and the code section provides a path for council to review the special use permit at a public hearing. Because this involves a discretionary land use approval, it's important that we follow the required notice and due process steps before bringing anything forward for council consideration. Lauren and Mr. Dahl have been working on this last week, and we should be back very soon with that process, what that looks like, and that public hearing date. Mr. Dahl, do you have anything to add to that?
Just two points. You're absolutely right. It's the special use permit is the city's main tool, and there is a process for review of that special use permit by the council in a hearing. Lauren and I were working on the materials to advance that review just today, actually, and I've got a final version of it here I'm supposed to look at and edit before tomorrow. So that should be going out to not only Autowash, but the neighbors yet this week. And it'll have dates in it, and it'll identify the process whereby the council will review special use permit and make decisions about how it should be changed or altered. And the notice is fairly comprehensive, so I think when the neighbors receive that, they'll see the work that we've put in terms of describing the background, the history, and teeing it up really for the council to exercise the authority it has after it's had a hearing and heard from everyone. So that will be happening yet this week.
Thank you. I have two follow-up questions. First of all, when that notice goes out, does it become quasi-judicial, and what are our limitations on communications once that happens, since we will be the jury for that?
That's a very good question. Thank you. It does become quasi-judicial because it's a public hearing on a land use entitlement, which a special use permit is. So we will make certain that, and I'm glad you asked that question, when that notice goes out, then that does mean that further communications between you, neighbors, between you, Autowash, should cease. Certainly, Autowash can always contact the staff, and the neighbors can always contact the staff, and should. And as we do for all quasi-judicial matters, when there's a rezoning, for example, and the neighbors adjacent to the rezoning aren't allowed to talk to you, but they certainly can message staff, and staff, on my instruction and Lauren's, always then summarizes that information, copies it, and makes sure it's available to the council in advance of the hearing and makes it a part of the hearing record when the hearing happens. So it's not that the dialogue can't happen. I'm glad the neighbors are here to know that they can and should still reach out, and they know who to email, they know how to reach Lauren. They should do that. They can expect that if they send things to you, you will route them to staff and not respond, just as you do for other quasi-judicial matters. But they will be heard and recorded, and that will become part of the hearing record when it comes back to you.
Thank you. And then
Yep.
can you just give a sense of the timeline for that letter to go out and for a hearing to get scheduled?
It should go out this week. It'll contain the dates that we haven't finalized yet, so I'm reluctant to plug in a date, but there's certain notice period we have to make sure we give, and we want to honor that to make sure that our procedures are correct for whatever decision the council then makes. I want it to be really defensible, because it'd be my job to defend it. But the notice itself will go out yet this week. So in the next couple days, it should be out there, and it will contain the schedule.
Okay. I guess I have a third question. So this went to court last summer, if I'm remembering correctly. And were there conditions of that court hearing that the car wash is subjected to now that we could?
Fair question. That's a separate process, of course. That's the municipal court process, and prosecution was deferred. You can often in municipal court, if it looks like there's the potential to resolve a matter, sometimes the court will entertain a motion to defer prosecution, not dismiss the case on the one hand, and not find the defendant guilty or innocent on the other. Defer the prosecution, really continue it, and keep that case open pending potential compliance and resolution of the problem. And that's where that municipal court case fits right now. It could well be that as a part of the city council's work on the special use permit, that prosecution can be taken up again. I will not sit here and say, and here's what will happen, because that obviously is the judge, not me. And it will really depend upon what council does and what Autowash might do in response to whatever council does. But separate process, really best way of saying it, it's on hold while the main action, in my opinion, the special use permit, is reviewed.
Okay, thank you for addressing my questions, and I really hope we're able to get this addressed as quickly as possible. I mean, if anyone has stood on that corner, it is incredibly loud. We've heard the recordings played in here. Both Councilor Ohm and I have spent time there. It is, you know, we're hearing from neighbors. It's incredibly impacting their quality of life. So I appreciate the update from staff, and it's good to know that that notice is going out this week. Thank you.
Thank you. We will go to agenda item number 1. Mayor Pro Tem Holteen, will you introduce this item?
I will in a minute, as soon as I get through all the paperwork that is up here. All right, I'd like to introduce Council Bill Number 7, 2026, an ordinance amending the Wheat Ridge Municipal Code concerning animal welfare and regulations for the same. At issue, several sections of the city's animal code are outdated, inconsistent, confusing, or do not reflect current needs or practices. As such, staff proposes several amendments to the Wheat Ridge Animal and Land Use Code for council's consideration.
Thank you. This is an ordinance on second reading. It is a public hearing. It is not quasi-judicial. I will open the public hearing, and then I will recognize Mayor Pro Tem Holteen.
Thank you. I move to continue the public hearing for Council Bill Number 7, 2026, an ordinance amending the Wheat Ridge Municipal Code concerning animal welfare and regulations for the same, to regular business meeting of the council scheduled to commence at 6:30 p.m. on June 8th, 2026.
Second. I have a second by Councilor Okada. Do we have discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk please poll the council?
Eight ayes, no nays, motion carries.
Thank you. We will move on to agenda item number 2. Councilor Larson, will you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mayor. This is Council Bill Number 08-2026, an ordinance amending Chapter 13 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws concerning vehicles and traffic by adding a new Section 13-7 concerning the violation of vehicle registration requirements to allow for the citation of vehicle registration violations into municipal court. At issue, Colorado House Bill 251112 empowers local authorities in Colorado to enforce vehicle registration laws, enabling them to issue penalties for unregistered vehicles within their jurisdictions. This ordinance was modeled to incorporate elements of the new law for enforcement within the city.
Thank you. This is an ordinance on second reading. It is a public hearing. It is not quasi-judicial. I will open the public hearing. And Mr. Goff, do we have a presentation on this?
We do. Mr. Dahl has a brief presentation.
Very brief. The issue captures it, I think. The legislature in the last session passed a statute specifically allowing municipalities to cite into municipal court registration violations. So expired plates, no plate, no registration, fake plates, those kinds of things. In the past, while our police department would write those tickets, they would have to be written into county court. And the statute allows us now to write those into municipal court. It's good for us. It's faster enforcement. The police department really supports this, wants to be able to write those tickets and then follow up in our municipal court with those violations. So beyond that, just make sure you get your little stickers on your license plates every year, like I do. On second reading now, this will allow the police department to be able to do that. And I set it up to be effective on adoption at second reading at the police department's request, because they're anxious to be able to, they write these tickets every day. It's not like they allow a non-registered vehicle to not be written, but they're writing into the county court, and they'd like to start writing it to municipal court. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Before we go to questions from council, we'll go to questions from the public. I have nobody signed up to speak, so we'll go to questions from council. Councilor Larson.
Thank you, Mayor. The first question I have is the ordinance as written does not include a specific Wheat Ridge fine that would be applied. Do we have a number for that, or are we just going to follow what the state code says?
Well, it's a Class B traffic infraction. And so the judge, I don't have that fine schedule in my head right now, but the judge would apply the same kind of fine schedule to other traffic infractions that the court sees on a daily basis. And I don't have a number in my head, but it's intended by subsection B that the judge would treat it the same as other traffic infractions.
Yeah, thank you. And the other question I had was on, well, first on enforcement, and you did mention that our police department is prepared to begin enforcing. Can you describe sort of the parameters, what's involved for you to get pulled over, for me to get pulled over in a car that would be in violation of what this code says?
Even today, if, pardon me, everybody's got colds tonight.
It's going
apparently. Even today, if, for example, if my plates are expired and I don't have the 2027, whatever sticker I should have, I know I do have, but if I didn't have that sticker on, even today, and an officer sees that, and of course, as you well know, the stickers are color-coded. I forget what the color is for this year, but if you didn't have the orange for this year, the green, whatever it is, the officer would pull you over, would write that ticket into municipal court, county court today, expired plates. So after this ordinance is effective, the police department would be able to say, okay, I'm writing you into municipal court for a violation of code section 13-7, expired plates. And it's the same ticket, it's just into a municipal court with the code section 13-7, which is what we're enacting today. So that's the process. They know it very well. They've been writing these tickets for years into state court. So it's very easy for them to just change the court and the citation number.
So if somebody is cited for an expired license plate, what can they expect when they appear at municipal court?
They, like any other traffic infraction, they can take a plea, they can probably mail in. I don't have that system right again in front of my head. Many do. They can show up and see the prosecutor, who will say, on these, quite likely, there's not a plea bargain available. Your plates are either expired or they're not, but the only time I can think, and I don't mean to speak for the prosecutor, but that I would consider a deferred judgment, for example, and it'd be deferred so long as you get your plates, similar to no proof of insurance. Okay, we're going to defer this, but I better see, says the judge, 30 days from now, you come in with your new insurance. Conceivably, the same thing would be available to the prosecutor, and that's prosecutorial discretion. That's not a rule. The rule is you violated it. And if you think that your plates weren't expired and you don't want to take a deal and you want to sit it for trial, well, that's your right too. And you can show up in front of the judge and say why you think the plate wasn't expired.
Mr. Dahl, if I'm cited on the first of the month for plates that are expired a year ago, all right, I'm clearly in violation of this ordinance.
Yeah.
If I, on my appearance day, I go into court and I have a receipt from Jefferson County that shows I had the plates renewed and they're up to date. Is there an additional fine for like a expiration more than a year, or is that additional amount of money at the time you renew your plates? Jefferson County, I believe, does have a penalty for late filing, right?
I see what you're saying. Yes, I think there is a penalty for late filing, but let's remember what category we're talking about. There's the registration process and what it costs you, and the fact that when you switch cars, whatever, you end up getting a supplement, when you move your tags. You've probably all seen that. Late registration fee charge, that's all administrative and non-criminal in any way, because that's just what you do. So that's over on that side. On the municipal court side, it still is just no plates. And while that violation might have been true for the last 9 months, on the day that you were written, yesterday, for example, you did not have plates, and so that's a a Class B traffic infraction on that day. I don't think it's really that an aggravating factor necessarily for the judge to say, and it was because you really don't know how long. The case in front of the judge is much more narrow. The judge says, on the day, on yesterday, whatever yesterday was, the 12th of April, you didn't have valid plates, and that's what you're being charged with. Not, you didn't have valid plates for 7 months. There'd be a lot of proof involved in that, and that's not the ticket that gets written.
And just to kind of wrap this, if you would make the appearance on the day that you're told to appear, and you can show that you have registered your vehicle, can you expect to have the case dismissed, or is it kind of up to the court's discretion?
I think if you've got the valid proof, you can probably expect that. Understanding that, the officer looked at the plate and it didn't have the orange sticker on it. Maybe there was a reason it didn't have the orange sticker on it. These will be rare cases, but in the rare case, and you've got good proof, then sure, it's something the judge, I think, could take into consideration and dismiss the case.
Okay, I appreciate it. And just one little aside, I did notice somewhere that Colorado, the state of Colorado requires license plates on the front and the back of the car. Is not having a plate on the front of your car cause for you to get pulled over?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the
Not
answer.
that important, and
Okay.
if somebody's in that situation, then it's on them.
We'll follow up with that, and we send you an email on that.
That's fine.
On
Thank you.
that subject. You bet.
Thank you. Counselor Quinn.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Dahl, thanks for bringing this up. And I know there's a lot of frustration with the citizens seeing cars driving around town with expired tags. Driving's one thing. What about if they're just sitting on the road and not doing anything in front of your house?
It's still a car that isn't properly registered.
Very well.
And so the violation is the registration, it's not a moving violation. Typically, they're found when they're moving, but it's not a moving violation, so no points, but it's still a violation.
Very well. On the property, not a big deal, but in front of the house, could get a ticket.
You could get a ticket.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Oh, Counselor Martell.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm so sorry. With this action and having these tickets now written into municipal court, does this mean that Wheat Ridge will be collecting the fees from the penalties instead of them going to county court?
That's right. The city will collect the fees and penalties, the court costs and penalties, the fines, whatever that the judge imposes as a municipal court violation. The city won't collect registration fees that are paid to the county to get your plates. Okay. Those remain a cost that's paid to the county.
So this is a additional revenue to the city of
it is.
Some magnitude, and
Understanding,
additional
of course,
work as well.
That is right. Understanding, of course, that for every municipal court case, it costs the city to have that case. We have a prosecutor, we have paperwork, the police have to write it, the judge has to hear it, the court clerk has to process that paper. So it isn't free money.
Right.
We assess court costs for a reason. It costs to run a court. But the fines are revenue. Nevertheless, the court costs we assess often aren't fully covering the true cost of operating the court, but nevertheless, there is a revenue component, yes.
Perfect. Thank you for clarifying.
Yep.
All right, one more time. Any other questions? Counselor Snell.
Thank you. Just briefly, I'm assuming this just covers vehicles that are registered in Colorado, not out-of-state plates.
Actually, as written.
We have a traffic officer in the room.
Do we have a traffic officer? I would love to
Yes
hear
or
from
no?
a traffic officer.
He says, yes, you can get out of state.
It's still a car that's unregistered.
Exactly. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Here we go. Mayor Pro Tem Olteen.
I just have to add this. I, for my day job, have been listening to the Maryland State Legislature for hours and hours and hours today, and they were talking about enforcement of out-of-state expired tags today. So I just got to listen to at least some legislators in Maryland talk about it, and they did talk. The bill that they were contemplating actually addressed the difficulty of enforcing out-of-state registration. And so if somebody is cited out of state, getting them to show up in court or pay the fine is extremely challenging. For them, it's relevant because they're surrounded by a bunch of other states and have a high percentage of non-local vehicles driving on their roads. We don't quite have the same situation here, but I just want to name it into the room since I am, as of 4 hours ago, a little bit more of an expert on the topic. So
One more time. Going once. All right. Seeing no more questions, I will close the public hearing and ask Councilor Larson for a motion.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve Council Bill number 08-2026, an ordinance amending Chapter 13 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws concerning vehicles and traffic by adding a new Section 13-7 concerning the violation of vehicle registration requirements to allow for the citation of vehicle registration violations into municipal court, and that it takes effect upon adoption as provided by Section 5.11 of the Charter.
I have a second by Councilor Ohm. Do we have discussion on the motion? Oh, Councilor Quinn.
I just wanted to comment that I enjoyed playing Stump the Attorney, and you did well.
Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk please poll the council?
8 ayes, no nays, motion carries.
Excellent. Moving on to agenda item number 3. Councilor Martell, will you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to introduce Council Bill number 09-2026, an ordinance approving the rezoning for property located at 3338 Depew Street from Residential 3 R3 to Residential 1C R1C. At issue, the owner of the property at 3338 Depew Street is requesting approval of a zone change from Residential 3 R3 to Residential 1C R1C. The zone change will result in zoning that encourages investment in the site and will enable the existing land use to become more conforming with the zoning.
Thank you. This is an ordinance on first reading to set the day and time and location for a second reading or for a public hearing. I apologize. Thank you. Councilor Martell, will you please give us a motion on this?
I will, thank you. I move to approve Council Bill number 09-2026, an ordinance approving the rezoning of property located at 3338 Depew Street from Residential 3 R3 to Residential 1C R1C on first reading, order it published by title in the paper and in full on the city's website as provided by the Home Rule Charter, public hearing set for Monday, May 11, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. as a virtual meeting and in city council chambers, and that it take effect 15 days after final publication.
I have a second by Councilor Quinn. Will the clerk please poll the council?
8 ayes, no nays, motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to our next agenda item, which is city manager's matters.
We have a study session this evening, so I will defer any comments till later. Thank you.
Thank you. City attorney's matters.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
All right, we'll go to elected officials matters. We will start with District 1 tonight. Councilor Martell.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a couple things I'd like to invite everyone to this weekend. The Panorama Park Sustainable Neighborhood Group is having a sustainability, so come have some tea at this sustainability event and plant giveaway at Panorama Park on April 18th from 11 to 1. They will be talking about a couple different topics, and we'll also have what's that? Water-wise plants, and they will also have a plant giveaway. And yeah, that's on April 18th from 11 to 1. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Snell.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things. First of all, I have to recognize our fantastic clerk's office. What a lineup of superstars. I'm so impressed and so proud. And so thank you all so much for all the hard work and all of the effort that you put into everything. And I just feel one more department in Wheat Ridge is stacked. So thank you. Let's see. I also want to recognize the residents that showed up to voice opinions tonight on safety and noise. I know it's always challenging to come and speak in front of council, especially with a frustrating issue, but I am always in awe when people take their time and come and do that and know that you're heard. So thank you for that. And lastly, I just wanted to say a personal thank you to the staff and just the entire group over at Clancy's. This past weekend, aka yesterday, we had a celebration of life for a family member, and we had folks in from literally 4 different states to come to this celebration. And as you could expect, the staff at Clancy's could not have been more lovely and wonderful and supportive, and just created a wonderful space for us to celebrate my wife's uncle, and just share some laughs and some tears as well. But I think that we just know that we're lucky to have Clancy's, and I feel sorry for folks that don't have such a wonderful place in their community, because folks from my family and folks came up and said, this is such a cool place and you're so lucky to have it so close. And so just another reminder of how lucky we are for our local small businesses. And then one last thing, I just wanted to recognize one more kernel of knowledge that I heard tonight from Honorita. She said, I endeavor to always lead with kindness. And I just wanted to recognize that and say thank you. I needed to hear that, and I always endeavor to do that as well. So thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Councilor Okada in District 4. Nothing from me tonight. Councilor Larson.
And thank you, Mayor. And I'm going to go through these very quickly. These are all pretty much forward-looking. Today is Thomas Jefferson Day, my second favorite founding father. Saturday is National Record Store Day, and I understand Black and Red 2 will be open for the day. We found out over the weekend that the Nuggets will be playing the T-Wolves. The Avs will be playing the LA Kings. They should do okay there. The Rockies have a new burst of optimistic preview of the coming years now that they have a new ownership group that has a lot of money. We did hear back from Wheat Ridge Water District finally, and they are going to follow all of the recommendations on water restrictions that are coming out of Denver Water. So we'll hope to hear a little bit more from that from our water districts in terms of specifics. And then finally, this is International Dark Sky Week, and everybody should just close their eyes at night.
Thank you. Go to District 3, Councilor Wood.
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Quinn.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say I feel for the folks by the car wash. They've been here numerous times, and I'm hoping that we can come to a quick resolution with this, and it doesn't drag on anymore. It's hard to imagine being subject to that. Also, thanks for the folks that came in talking about needing crossing guards and some traffic issues in front of the at 38th and High there. And I just would like to close is just to remind folks to be good neighbors. We wouldn't have some of the problems we're hearing about tonight if we just be good to each other and think about the next person in line and slow down going down the road, keep your eyes open. Remember, there's kids and pets and things running across the road, and just take a few extra minutes and slow down, please. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Ohm.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple things. One, I want to give a big thank you to Director O'Donnell for, sending us an email message about we as a city need to be leaders, and we're going to reduce rates, and grass might be a little brown. And so hopefully the constituents understand that we're all going to have to make some sacrifices this summer, and the city's doing what it can, and hopefully we'll get some moisture later on, but it's really dry out there, and it's really concerning for the city, for all of Colorado. And I think there's a lot of leaders out there that are looking at the water from all different perspectives, and trying to do what we can to try to stay a little bit ahead of it. I was able to I got an invitation to go to the Future Farmers of America by a teacher at the high school. So I attended that on Wednesday night. That was really great. The kids are really fun to be around. A lot of them, you know, I asked them like why they wanted to be in that, and some said because, you know, it's a little weird and geeky, and I just love that. They had such a great community, very, very supportive of each other. There were kids that came from, for this one, that came from Brighton down, came up from, I think it was Bear Lake, all over, kind of not just the Denver metro area, but outside to come and be a part of this community. Very impressed with that. And then to, you know, the constituents, you know, with the car wash, yes, it's been very, very frustrating. And I hope that we can make some progress to move forward. 14 months is a really, really long time. I'm trying to think about like future things about the special use permit, you know, looking at that and trying to see, is there some different path in the future that would expedite things? And so that's on my mind. And then also, you know, school safety. When my kids were little, I used to walk them to school, and you know, I've had close calls just in my neighborhood at Wilmer Davis with cars, you know, coming within several feet of me, and we all need to slow down. And I used to walk my kids over to St. Peter's and Paul. You know, I'd walk them from my neighborhood all the way up there, and you know, crossing Wadsworth. And you do really have to have your head on a swivel. And I think you know, when the parents feel that, you know, we have a problem, we as council in the city need to hear that and try to work on solutions. And so I hope that we can keep thinking about different ways, different tools in the toolbox of what can we do to help that. There's a lot of different tools. I'm not going to go into that, but I'm just, you know, trying to have an open mind about all that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Holteen.
Thank you. A couple things on my list. First of all, I just want to thank staff and my peers for a great retreat on Saturday. That was a day well spent rolling up our sleeves and taking a look at some of the really good and important work that we're currently doing, but the work ahead is going to be challenging. And the only way we're going to get there is through good, robust engagement with our community to better understand, you know, where they are in their understanding of, you know, what's good investments in the city. So I am looking forward to getting going on that work. I want to also thank everyone who came out and spoke this evening. You know, these are two issues that, you know, we've heard about off and on over the last year. I just want to speak, you know, when I first started getting involved in bike ped advocacy here in the city, there were not a lot of kids walking and riding their bikes to school. There were not a lot of kids in my own neighborhood on bikes. And because my brain just automatically kind of tracks how many people are out on bikes, I cannot overstate like what a difference it has been in the last, I would say, literally like 3 years. Part of it's demographic changes. Part of it is, I mean, it's been really warm, so it's been easy to be out in this weather. But fundamentally, like how people and families and kids are getting around our community has just changed in the last 10 years. And so I think we are doing some things, and I know we are doing our best to try and reorient around that. But just recognizing that we just as a city have a lot more families that are choosing that, and that's a great choice for them to make. So however we can support that is really important, and looking forward to staying in communication with Stevens about that, and also recognizing we have other schools and parks in our community that also benefit from good policies and budgeting on that. A reminder to my colleagues, we did push the animal code hearing out to June. Just a reminder, we are only talking about 3 things. We are not opening the whole code up. We're going to talk about swine and domestic pigs, cats at large, and the definition of venomous animals to clarify insects versus arthropods. Everyone grab your popcorn. It's going to be an interesting evening. And then lastly, Patrick and I actually had a chance to present at Civic Spark together last Thursday. This is a really great program that brings together curious civic leaders in Jefferson County. It's a program hosted by Local Works, but it's actually a national program. And I think there were about 16 people in the room, a handful from Wheat Ridge, a couple I've seen before, but a couple new people from Wheat Ridge I've never seen before. And these are people who really care about how local government works, and they are there to learn specifically what are the roles of different people, how do they engage and interact effectively to affect the changes that they want to see in the community. We were there to present, really it was a city manager presentation on affordable housing, but the questioning was really thoughtful and I think provocative and probing on like the role of, you know, us listening to our community and how staff interacts with that, and how do you go from someone who cares about something in your community to one of us up here. So it was just a really, I would say like uplifting and energizing evening in a time when sometimes I feel people are not that interested in local government or not that trusting. And I stayed afterwards and had some really good conversations, and people are engaged, and there's a diversity of perspectives and opinions, and they were thoughtfully exchanging them. So anyway, it was just a yay democracy night, and Patrick, of course, knocked it out of the park. And just it's fun to be in the room with that. And then the last thing, I was kind of surprised last week. I'd forgotten I put my name in to be the vice chair of JEFTAC, which is our Jefferson County Transportation Action and Advisory Group. So surprised I'm now the vice chair of that, but it meets quarterly, and a couple of big projects that they mentioned that I'm going to mention now only because we don't meet again until July. But there's some big work planned in October on I-70 and Kipling. There will be, I'm sure, more communication about it, but they're actually going to be closing I-70 up Kipling and rerouting the traffic like through our ramps. So I'm just mentioning that now, but also on the upside, there's some pretty exciting redesign and work with I-70 and Garrison Underpass, as well as looking at Ward Road from I-70 to 52nd Avenue. So we continue to be the beneficiary of substantial transportation design and investments in our community. Even if they are disruptive for short periods of time, we remain extremely regionally competitive to get those dollars and investments in our community. That's what I got. Thanks.
Thank you. And congratulations. It's sounds like more work, which is good. I want to thank all of our residents who are here tonight. I think they brought up some great points, and clearly some things that we need to work on and will be working on. I think as we talk about Stevens Elementary, I think one of the things that happened a couple years ago is Jeffco consolidated some of their schools. We went from having a lot of very small schools spread out throughout the city to now two of the largest elementary schools in all of Jeffco being in Wheat Ridge, and our streets are a little bit smaller, and so we need to adjust and make sure that we're as safe as we can for Stevens, Prospect Valley, Peak, and all the other charter and schools that we have going on here in Wheat Ridge. I have some sad news. Roger Lasher, who's a longtime District 2 resident, property owner, business owner in Wheat Ridge, passed away a couple weeks ago. I've known Roger and his family for a long time, went to high school with his daughter, Bree. Fantastic gentleman, family, so our wishes go out to them, and hopefully they do well in the coming months and years. And I also want to thank our city council and our staff for a very productive and excellent workshop this past weekend. You know, it's one of those things you would think sitting 8 hours in a room talking about boring civic stuff would drain you, but I think all of us kind of left pretty pumped and excited for the work ahead, because we've got a lot of work to do. But it was really cool to be at Clear Creek Crossing and see all the new businesses developing out there. Prost is vertical out there. I believe Hashtag is vertical out there as well. Bonfire looks like it's about ready to open here pretty quick. Across the way, there's the new hotel and all that going. So it's a fantastic time to be in Wheat Ridge. We've got a lot going on, and as we look at some of the other cities around us that are having some issues, it's great to be here and part of a great team and part of a great community. So thank you to everybody who was a part of that. And again, if you can find it, you should find it and buy it in Wheat Ridge, because it's fantastic here. So we have a special study session tonight. We have, I see her back there, School Board President Michelle Applegate is here to give us some updates on Jeffco. So we'll get right into that here in about a minute. So we will go ahead and adjourn our meeting here tonight and go right into our special study session in just a moment. special studies session for April 13th, 2026. We have one agenda item tonight, an update from Jeffco Public Schools, and I will kick it right over to City Manager Goff. And
Yeah, I'll just kick it over to Michelle. I'm not going to repeat anything. She's just here to give us an update. So
Well, thank
go
you.
for it.
welcome, President Applegate.
Thank you. Good evening, counselors. Thank you, Mayor Stites. I'm really excited to be here tonight. I'm here really just to give you a quick update and really hopefully engage in some dialogue if you have questions. It was interesting to sit in the back of the room and hear. And I really believe we are partners with our municipal leaders, and I count that as you all very much. I'm Michelle Applegate. I am our current sitting president for the Jeffco County Board of Education. I've been on the board about 3 years now. In my real job, I am an engineer. I went to the Colorado School of Mines. I work in air compliance and decarbonization for Midstream Oil and Gas Company, and have 3 children. One who is out. I have a college-age child and a kindergartner, who, if any of you saw, she was in the back of the room earlier. So we have a long way to go in Jeffco. And we are in the Wheat Ridge articulation area. So I have a very special place in my heart for the work that you all do. In November, we elected 3 new members to our Board of Education. We are a board of 5. And so every 2 years, at least some of us are up for election. It's been a fun opportunity to bring some new folks in and get some fresh perspective. So I appreciate that. Tonight, I'm really just going to give you a quick update on where we are, quick overview. Many of you know Jeffco, how we are doing on some of our academic goals, and really get into what future funding efforts look like. I know there's some questions about that, and so I look forward to getting into a dialogue there. At Jeffco, our vision is essentially to be a thriving school district, and our mission is to make sure that we offer an excellent education for all students that walk through our door, and that's something that the Board of Education takes incredibly seriously. So many of you probably know this, but we serve approximately 75,000 schools, or 75,000 students, not schools, that would be a lot. 145 schools, so we have 14,000 employees, which does make us the largest employer in the county. With that, you can see on the slide, we have a variety of schools in all of those areas, and we have really what I consider to be excellent options for many of our children that come into our district. I'm going to highlight a few things that I am particularly proud of. Last month, we opened the new Fletcher Miller School. Fletcher Miller is a school that serves our students with the highest needs. And this is a crown jewel for Jeffco. This is something that people come to us from outside of the state and within the state to bring their students here. Fletcher Miller had been in a building that was built in the 60s, and it was not designed to be a special needs school. And so the school that we opened last month has hallways designed for 2 wheelchairs to pass each other. It has inclusive lighting. When you think about the needs of our most affected kids, that requires that every bathroom has a lift and hoist so that our staff has the support they need. It's really a tremendous building and facility, and I would love to invite all of you to come visit it with us. It's been a long time coming and something I'm very proud that Jeffco is invested in. In addition to that, I'm really proud of the results we've been getting for our students. We've experienced last year a 94% graduation rate, which is 8% higher than our state average, and the highest graduation rate we've had in 16 years. This is something that we are incredibly proud of, and we are seeing it also in some of our subcategories of students, which is really incredibly important. Another item that I'm really proud of that this slide doesn't actually show, you see that we have 14,000 students enrolled in our CTE or career programs. What you don't see on this slide is the difference that it makes for a student enrolled in CTE to get to graduation. And so what we are seeing in our CTE students, especially in some of our subgroups, is phenomenally high graduation rates. And it's really a testament to when you give kids purpose, they identify with what their future is and they really lean in. In addition, we have 570 students that are concurrently enrolled in college classes. That is something the district pays for and something that we can offer our students, really a leg up going into secondary education if that's their desire. And our students earned $15.3 million in college scholarships last year, which is something we're really proud of. When we think about our students, obviously, we think about them in elementary, middle, and high school, and we're doing some really wonderful things in all of those groups. So I'm really proud to report that in our elementary level, our K through 3 kiddos, 63% of those students are at or above grade level, which is up from 39% at the beginning of the school year. This to me is a reference and a recognition of a lot of the programs and the interventions that we're putting in, as well as curriculum. Something that the district did about 2 years ago is we said we're going to standardize our curriculum. If you can believe it or not, prior to that, every school kind of picked their own. And what that created, in my humble opinion, was some inequity across our district. It fell to, as you all know, the funding of education has been a struggle across our state and really across our country. And so when your funds are limited, your curriculum is limited. And so the district said we are going to provide a base level of curriculum for every school. And what we believe we've seen is the result of that now. We're in year 3. And we're really proud of the scores that we're seeing. When it comes to, you can see the notes there, but we also have 67% of our K through 3 students that are scoring at or above on phonics, reading fluency, and that's compared to 55% nationally. So these are numbers that we are tremendously proud of, and we think that shows a bright future for our youngest learners. We are calling it the magic of middle school. Many of us can remember middle school maybe less fondly. I have a student who is entering middle school next year, and we are ready for the magic in the most honest of ways. But we are really focusing on how do we make that transition from elementary school into middle school, especially in Wheat Ridge. How do we make that move so that our elementary schools are funneling to Everett and Everett is funneling to Wheat Ridge? Wheat Ridge is a really special area in our district because we have one high school in Wheat Ridge, and we really emphasize and are working with Wheat Ridge to do some amazing things at the high school level. And at the high school level, Wheat Ridge is really leading in what we are calling high school reimagined. So back to that purpose-driven type of education, we are saying, hey, how do we make school relevant to our students today? I graduated high school many, many years ago, and it fundamentally looks the same as when I graduated. And it's time to change that. There are some statistics right now that say that our students in school now, 65% of them will be in jobs that don't exist today. So how do we train a workforce and the next generation for jobs that we can't even imagine right now? And so what we're thinking about is how can you take classes that go together and make sure that they are built for credits for both. So for example, if you take an engineering class, you are almost often getting math credit. How do you take things like history and film and form a class that students are really interested in that is meeting the state curriculum for those? And so we're really being intentional about leaning into what drives kids to learn. Wheat Ridge has been at the forefront of this. They've made tremendous investments. Counselor Ohm, I appreciate you recognizing the FFA. I know you and I have been together for the STEM lab and ribbon cuttings there. And the work that we are doing in Wheat Ridge to try to engage and bring students in is tremendous. So that's all the happy stuff. It is no secret that funding in K-12 education across the state of Colorado has been a challenge. And in Jeffco specifically, I'm sure it's no secret that we have been making significant budget cuts this year. That comes from a variety of places. The question I get asked most frequently is, how did we get there? And we got there with many good intentions. One of the things that I am incredibly proud of and stand by is the fact that we have increased our compensation for our teachers and our staff, which is incredibly important. We still lag behind neighboring districts, and we need to ensure that folks that work in Jeffco can live in Jeffco. We've also seen declining enrollment. If you want to talk about the single biggest impact to funding, it is enrollment. We are a student-based budget organization, as is the way the state of Colorado funds K-12, and so as students decline, so does your funding. The state demographer has been out and meets with us every year now to talk about this declining enrollment, and what the state is telling us is that it really is statewide, nationwide, and even globally. There are fewer women having children, and they are waiting till later to start having children, and there are less children. Now, I am encouraged by the work that Wheat Ridge has done to bring in families, to welcome the parks, to make 38th Avenue a hub where people want to be. That helps to bring folks in, and that helps to bring families in. So I greatly appreciate that. But the fact of the matter is we are seeing approximately 1,500 less students every year. The peak was in the 2007-2008 birth year, and those kiddos graduated last year, which means our incoming kindergarten classes are smaller. And so we will see a declining enrollment feasibly for at least the next 12 years. In addition, it is no secret that the way the state funds K-12 has been the issue of a new School Finance Act that came out last year. And that School Finance Act is still being discussed and debated, and the governor and the Joint Budget Committee is considering if K-12 needs to make additional cuts to revenue streams. What that means for us is we won't actually know our revenue until this legislative session closes. So we are preparing multiple budgets. We also have to have our budget approved in June. So it's a very short turnaround between the time the legislature closes. We know what our funding is to get a budget approved in June. I'm going to breeze through some of these. I really want to get to the discussion part and less of the presentation part. This is probably less for you all and maybe more for your listening public. There is a little bit of a misunderstanding of how schools are funded. So most people will say, well, it's funded by property taxes, which is largely true. The state has authorized us to establish funding at 27 mills. That is kind of the base. If property taxes go up, the state share goes down. So the state doesn't have to meet what they had previously. So people assume if property taxes go up, funding for schools goes up. That's not the case. The district does have the opportunity to put mill levy overrides on top, as you all know. And that is something that Jeffco is absolutely considering for this November. As you all know, I am one person on a board of 5, so I cannot say what we will do, but I am heavily advocating for us to put something on the ballot in November. This does make a difference. So Jeffco is a beautiful purple county. And what that means is that we have a lot of communities that have a lot of different opinions, and that makes us great. It also makes us somewhat unusual with some of our other larger districts. So Jeffco is the second largest district in the state. What this chart effectively shows is the green, the biggest green section of those bar graphs is the total program that comes from the state. It's all about the same. This is per student, by the way, so it's normalized across the size. The blue is general purpose mill levy overrides that a county has provided, and the light blue is a special purpose mill levy. This is important because when I look at Jeffco on the left at about $13.6 per student compared to Boulder and Denver, we are $3,000 to $4,000 less per student. And that is a significant amount of money. And while I'm very happy that Boulder and Denver have that, because it is wonderful for their districts, when you are competing for kids in a state that has choice, that matters. And so this is one of the things that we're considering now. Dougco and us are pretty close. And so they, our neighbor to the south, we often talk with their school board and discuss ideas. But when you look across the state, there's definitely some differences. We have started having meetings of a group called the Fiscal Sustainability Partnership. And this is a group of parents and teachers and staff and community members that have come together to say, hey, what's important? And these are the 4 areas that we are consistently hearing have importance to our community. Obviously, strong academics, safe and welcoming schools, career-connected pathways, and compensation for our educators and staff. We are considering 3 options to put on the ballot in November. Our process right now is that we would not likely certify actual language until August. But if you do have the good fortune to listen to a school board meeting, you will find that we are talking about this quite frequently. Option 1, just for clear transparency and open to discussing these. Option 1, if we were to maximize the current general purpose mill levy overrides, we could go up to 75 million. If we were to take advantage of special purpose mill levy overrides on top of that, that could go up to 135 million. Or option 3 is a general purpose and a bond, which is historically what Jeffco has done. The bond appetite does not seem high right now. The idea of taking on additional debt is not something that I am super excited about, but again, I am one of 5. an important note for you all and for those listening is that if you just took, all three of those options range by about $21 to $45 per year per $100,000 of actual property value. So we recognize in a world of, and I've had one of the fun things I get to do is I get to sit on the Wheat Ridge Urban Renewal organization, and we've had wonderful conversations about what Wheat Ridge needs. And so it is no shock or surprise to us that many of our municipalities are also considering mills. Many of our fire districts are considering mills, because the fact of the matter is it costs quite a bit to do business these days. And so we also know that there's several initiatives at the state that may also be on the ballot. So there is a lot of thought being put into how and when we do this. But I will tell you, after cutting $40 million out of our budget and knowing that that is not enough, I wholly expect we will have something on the ballot in November. I don't need to tell you this, but we believe that passing a mill really gives us opportunities to continue to appropriately compensate our educators and our staff, lean into programming, cover higher sped costs, and really ensure we have warm, safe, and modern facilities. Jeffco experienced yet another tragedy in September, and it's something that we take very seriously when we think about the safety of our schools. And we recognize that if we don't have solid educators and great programming in those schools, we are not doing our job as educators. This is just a really quick time frame. I get the question a lot of, well, when do you start this process? What does it look like? By law, we have to establish an MOU with our charter schools. They do receive about 10% of the funding, and so we do have an agreement with them. Our ideal is that we would have ballot language that we could have even polled on in May and June. Ideally, what would happen is a private campaign group would form and begin the campaign around that same time. In August, we would take formal action that would put language on the ballot. And then obviously election day would come in November. So when we think about the time frame, August and September is when we would truly certify and make it formal, but there's a lot of discussion that's going on right now. This is just a little bit more about the partnership. You can go to this website. There's a lot of information about the meeting notes and what's going on at those. It's all public. And I encourage anyone listening, if you're interested, this is a wonderful group to get involved in. And one of the reasons we're here, right, is to connect. I'm here to connect with you all, but our community and your community can as well. You can reach out to any of the board members via email. We do have a board email that goes to all of us. We have public comment, as you all do, at every meeting. We typically meet the second Thursday of the month. And so actually our next meeting is tomorrow night. Because of Passover, we moved it back. But we are really happy to be here, and I would really love to hear what questions you have and see if I can answer them for you.
Thank you. It's great to have you here. We'll go to questions from council. She was thorough. Don't be shy. All right. Councilor Quinn.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, and thanks for coming tonight. I get some emails from legislators quite a bit, and I think it was one from Lindsay Doherty that said that to the JBC and whatnot, they said they were increasing funding by $184 million this year. I assume that's just one-time deal. So how much of that does Jeffco get?
If we're talking about the same thing, I believe it's about $9 million. I know. The school formula takes into account, I mean, you have to recognize there's almost 200 districts across the state. And there are factors including at-risk population, size. We have to recognize that because we are larger, we do have the advantage of significant funding where our smaller rural districts do not. And so there are provisions in the formula to address for things like that. But anything is better than nothing, and I will take that, because if it's, there's also been talk of re-implementing the budget stabilization factor, which would be a hit for Jeffco. Right now, we are expecting our revenue to be anywhere from 1 to 10 million less than it was last year. That's what we're prepared for.
Okay. Councilor Larson.
Thank you, Mayor.
Oh, sorry, I was, yeah. Go ahead, Councilor. No, you're good.
Thanks, Michelle. It was a wonderful presentation. This is the second time I've seen you go through this, and then it's very, very impressive how you make it understandable. My question is, and you mentioned this briefly, that the board has already gone through a series of cuts. And can you just describe those briefly, where and what sort of things were cut?
Absolutely. So the board, so last year when we approved a deficit budget, part of approving a deficit budget per the state is that you have to implement a plan to not have a deficit budget in the future, which is good housekeeping. So the board directed at that time, the superintendent to embark on what we were hoping was actually going to be $60 million in cuts. And the way that the district has approached that is we gave them some guiding principles to keep the cuts as far away from the classroom as physically possible for this point. And so the central office, so if you think about it, this gets confusing quickly. The way we budget is each school is their own budget. So a principal gets their budget for their school, and in that includes their own salary, any assistant principals, all the secretaries, all the paras, all the teachers, any programming outside of the curriculum that they want or need. And so it gives tremendous, first of all, our principals are incredible because they are business owners effectively, right? They are running their own budgets, and many of them did not go to school to do that. And so right off the top, let's assume we have about $1 billion budget, about $550 million goes to the schools for them to manage. What's left is really in our central office, and that looks like a bunch of different things. That is everything from transportation funds, which is all of our busing and bus drivers, to our facilities, to support at the central office that looks like accountants and HR partners and business partners, to central office leadership. It also includes our professional development folks, central office coordinators, some of our social emotional learning support and coaches. So things are budgeted at the central office that is in the schools. I just want to be really clear on that. About 75% of the central office budget is in our schools. And so the central office took cuts of about $27 million. That does include vacancies. So if we had roles that we knew were open, it was effectively about 150 positions, which equated to about 50 people. The way we do our budget, those cuts were made for next year. So everyone that was notified of this will have a job through the end of this fiscal year for us, which is June 30th. At the same time, schools were asked to make similar cuts. And so their cut was about 14%, or 14 million, I'm sorry. And that looked different school to school. So on the low end, it was about 2% of a budget, and on the high end, it was up to 7, 8, 9% of a budget. And when you have a high school of 2,000 kids, that's very different than an elementary school of 200 kids. And so the board felt really strongly that some of our schools with the most needs needed extra supports. And so we've been trying to work with principals who are really hitting that bare bones threshold to make sure that they can operate and function. I want to be really clear, everything we do is important. Every single one of these dollars that we cut is affecting our kids. And that is a really hard thing for me as a mother and as someone who cares really deeply about public education to do. We got to about 40 million of the 60. We have asked our superintendent to bring us options for the budget. One of those options will be a balanced budget. And we may also decide that we need to still have a small deficit to go forward with operations. One part that you and I have talked about that I'll get to, and I may be jumping your questions, is capital. Typically, we allocate about 30 million a year to our capital fund from our general fund. Last year, we cut that to 15 million. This year, I know one of our options will be to continue to cut our capital. That is a scary proposition in the face of delayed maintenance. I often get the question, and Mayor Stites, you recognized it earlier, well, you've closed all these schools. What's going on? And we did, and that saved us about $20 million in our ongoing budget. And we recognize that we now have these assets, 2 of which are in Wheat Ridge, that have been surplused. When we surplused the buildings, that essentially gave permission to the district to work with partners like Wheat Ridge to figure out an option to sell. And I want to say I've been so impressed with Wheat Ridge's approach to going out and looking for partners and really trying to come at this solution oriented. We've actually used you all as the example when we've talked with other municipalities for how to do this work. The board very much values our partnerships and understands that the value of these facilities, especially the parks and fields, to our communities. And so we're really happy and looking forward to working with Wheat Ridge on that. I can answer more about that if you have questions.
Okay, we'll go to Councilor Wood.
I too want to say thank you for coming and thank you for all the information you provided both tonight and that was in our packet as well. One of the things you mentioned is something I've heard in other places, other states where I've lived, is that funding is dependent on kids in school and head count essentially. And it sounds like that's the way it is here. But knowing that we are in this time of shrinking population, essentially, and a shrinking number of children that are going to be going to school, it almost seems like this methodology doesn't work as well as maybe it did in the past. So I wondered, is there ever any conversation about that paradigm potentially changing?
Councilor Wood, if you would like to go to the state offices with me, I would welcome you to come with us. Our first Vice President, Director Kenworthy, has really led a legislative effort this year. And so once a month, we go down and sit with our Jeffco delegation and anyone else that wants to come and talk with us. And we do bring this up pretty regularly. It is the way the state funds education, and it would take a pretty big paradigm shift. However, we may be on the precipice of needing to talk about that paradigm shift. There's a lot of creative ideas out there. Some of them are very creative, but it is a great question to ask, and I don't have an answer for you other than there is a lot of very smart people at the Capitol that do recognize that we have a challenge.
That's good to know. We'll see what the future brings. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Holteen.
Thank you so much for coming tonight and for your leadership. When I think about some of the more excruciating roles, school board is one of them. So I just really deeply thank you for your service and leadership there. I want to say I am not someone who's in the weeds on the schools. We all pick our lanes that we tend to pay more attention to. And because I have been fortunate to serve alongside others who really are much more attentive to these things, I have a kid who graduated from Jeffco Public Schools, so I'm not completely ignorant. But so hearing you tonight, talk through what the board and the district have been doing the last couple of years in the face of declining enrollment and population and demographic trends that, to some extent we can't control. We cannot force people to move here and enroll their kids in our schools. So I really appreciate that and hearing what the approach is for trying to remedy that. I have kind of at the end of the day, we're here representing our communities and, so we're part of the district, but at the end of the day, I have, Wilmore Davis is in my district. It's down the street from me. So we've been really impacted by, some of the things that the district have had to do. As it was happening, I was sort of understanding it. My son's a sophomore at CU, so I wasn't in the elementary chatter boxes as much, chatter rooms. But I'm really starting as an elected official to understand more this year how those decisions are impacting families and as they're starting to look at schools of choice. We heard tonight about, families choosing into Stevens and, that's creating a whole culture around that. Some of those same families who've been reaching out to us about Stevens, like I got 2 emails in the last couple of weeks about a proposed new charter school opening. And I'm bringing this up. The discomfort for me is I actually moved to Wheat Ridge because my son was at Compass. So we opted into a charter school and that actually brought my family to Wheat Ridge. And and I know we've had a lot of council members, with kids at some of our different charter schools. So I want to recognize the value in charter schools that attract and, educate, kids and families in, sort of some non-traditional or complementary ways. But this is a long question around, as we are a city and I represent a district reeling from a school closure, and then I'm hearing about the proposed opening of a new charter school not that far from my district, like, how do we reconcile that as elected officials when we're looking at like school funding decisions?
It's an excellent question. And first, I want to say and recognize that the closures did greatly impact the Wheat Ridge community. And I will say we are all lifelong learners. And as someone who took her seat on the board just after that, I learned a lot watching my own kids' school be involved in those conversations and having good personal friends at schools like Wilmer Davis and Color Strand and Vivian, and schools that are communities that were tremendously impacted. And I do want to add to Mayor Steitz's comment, Wheat Ridge actually has the highest capacity rate of any of our articulation areas in elementary right now, which is a wonderful sign. And Stevens is doing tremendous work, Prospect Valley, Stober, Peak, they're all really special Maple Grove schools that are in this region. To the charter school question, Jeffco has a history of being working with our charters, and I am proud of that because I do believe school choice is ultimately a good thing for families to make the right decisions for their kids. We have 19 charter schools in Jeffco currently. What I can speak to is the process. And so right now, the process is that by February, every year, any application from a charter school comes in. And what happens is it is evaluated based on the state law. So there's a Charter School Act that sets out that there are certain parameters that you can approve or deny a charter school based on. The DAC, our district accountability, does a review, and the superintendent does a review after interviews and based on the responses to the application. I can tell you we expect to have a study session on this next month. So the first Wednesday in May, we will have a study session that will have specific public comment. We do not offer public comment at study sessions often for this charter school. So if you have constituents that are reaching out, I would encourage you to encourage them to reach out to us. The board at jeffco.k12.co.us or come to public comment. I can tell you I've gotten a lot of emails about this charter. And what we will do is we will study the board, we will study the superintendent's recommendation, and we will study the DAC's recommendation, and we will hear public comment, and then we will vote at our May meeting. So I would encourage anyone who is interested to share their opinions, bring the concerns. We are listening and we hear them, and we will absolutely comply with the state law.
I appreciate that explanation just because it's just in the zeitgeist right now. And we're looking at a convergence of so many funding needs, and some of it is trickled down from, federal decisions. Our state budget deficiency is enormous, right? Like the squeeze is coming everywhere. And I think just specifically for my district, it's being felt just because Stevens has, we've learned that it's losing, 100-ish students. And there's just a big concern from the community that too much declining enrollment really is going to, just be a downward spiral they can't recover from. So we have a lot of really activated parents. I personally support more funding for the schools. I've seen my own son go through, he did Compass through 6th grade, and then he opted out of charter school and went to middle school and then Lakewood High School, and he did Warren Tech and concurrent enrollment in Red Rocks, and just really thrived through that, sort of like that landscape of choices. So I do think, the choices that the district's working to give people are important. And we just have communities and neighborhoods really impacted by some school closures. So I just want to thank you for all your hard work on this, and I appreciate you letting us know about the comment study session in May.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you. Counselor Ohm.
Thank you, Mayor. And just a quick comment on the email that we all received about the competition on the charter school. I can say that personally, I have a niece that, I had two nieces that went to Stevens, absolutely loved it. Now I just have the one niece. They're traveling about probably a 5-minute drive from where that charter school is going. And so I do wonder, would it make their life easier, for them to do that instead of coming all the way to Wheat Ridge? Maybe. And then, would we, I don't want to be selfish about it, but we would lose a student, and that's one. I don't know how much that would affect other students, but that is the reality. But what I want to shift gears a little bit on, the funding, but on my mind, I'm thinking about affordable housing. And so, with right now, with teachers, entering the market, given the, it's a pretty steep curve entry point to get a house. And when these teachers, it's like, how do we entice them? Give them a little more money? Is that really going to move the needle? Or trying to get them into some type of affordable housing. And I don't know, what that would look like, but I think that would start to move the needle for a lot of people of trying to find that affordable housing, in the respective cities, so that they would have a much shorter commute to the schools, and then that they would be invested in the community. And so I'm just trying to think of the strategic ways of how, we're connecting. I hear about programs that I have another niece that goes to Green Mountain, and it was in construction management, and she just loved it. And I didn't know that program existed, and I hear pieces about Warren Tech. I've had conversations with Red Rocks Community College about what they're doing, attracting students and programs in civil engineering that then become the gateway to get into School of Mines. I think those are great partnerships. Having architecture. I've had conversations with Foothills Housing Authority about, having finance classes for affordable housing. And so I just, would really advocate for, the school district trying to get everybody together, looking at what some of these programs are. And, I really, in the end, I want Jeffco to be the leader for the school district. And to have kids that feel like, we're really moving the needle. We have some great, we have a lot of really talented, smart people in Jefferson County. And like, how can we connect all these dots to get kids into the programs and to keep moving them, to build a career, to have the community in the house? So that's what I'm thinking about. So that's just my comment, but.
Well, I can address it a little bit. I agree that ensuring that our teachers can live where they work is crucial, because this isn't just a job, right? These teachers really shape our kids. They're our coaches. They are involved in our kids' lives, and it's really important. CASB, which is the Colorado Association of School Boards, we have a big meeting every December, and I actually went to a session on exactly that. How can the school district work with affordable housing? How does that work? There are some districts across the states in more rural areas, and then some of our mountain communities that are doing this and piloting it. And so Jeffco's certainly interested in learning from it. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, I'm an engineer, big difference, but there's a lot of questions I had just about how that would work in practice. But we are looking to the districts across the state that are trying it to learn from them and see how it works for them. So there are some communities that are dipping their toes into this, and a lot of us are eagerly watching to see how it goes. So it is something that is happening. It's not something that we have really talked about piloting yet in Jeffco, but it is something we're watching.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Quinn.
Thanks. Michelle, what's the target you're looking for? What's a good number for per student? We're at 13.6. Denver's at 17.3. I mean, are we looking like you're in your Valhalla world? Are we 17, 18 per student?
I've never been asked that question, Counselor. That's a great question. Obviously, The more money we can put into education, I believe it is better. What it equates to is really interesting because if you look at the way Denver, for example, has structured that, that little light blue bar is something that is designated for capital and technology. And so for Denver, they're getting about $100 million a year just for capital. If we could get $100 million a year just for capital, it is a game changer. I mentioned we put 15 million aside. We typically do 30. If you look at the spending on capital, it's very kind of bond heavy. So the 2018 bond, the 3 to 4 years after that, we're pretty high. And then we kind of get down to we knock a bunch of maintenance out in those years, do a bunch of upgrading. But when you think about just the day-to-day maintenance of 150 buildings, one hailstorm, right? We're a self-insured organization. So when you think about just a hailstorm that comes through and all the roofs that have to be repaired, it's a lumpy figure that I would love to smooth out. And so I don't have a number for you other than if we could max out. I mean, it's the way we fund schools is super fascinating, right? Because there's a cap on the number of mills that we could issue. So that $75 million option would max out the mills. Denver is currently talking to the state legislature about increasing that number so that they could ask for more. And so Aspen has 47 mills because their community has supported that. And so it is a great question that I will noodle on and get back to you.
Well,
I mean, I've never been asked.
Thanks. It's just
it'd be a
weird
ton.
because, the graph was like that. I'm like, well, what is a good number? And so for some perspective, because I'm a Jefferson County kid and probably a 40-year reunion's right around the corner-ish, maybe. I hope. I'm trying to get him to do it at Anderson Park, but, we are Alameda High School, so it's a little different. But anyhow, shameless plug. What's the difference in enrollment over the years? So, we're down, 75,000 because I have a lot of friends in the education through all the labor work that I do. I'm the union guy here, right?
Sure.
So, a neighbor is security at Connections.
Yep.
A lot of my good friends are in the teachers unions, and
Yeah.
it's very huge. You got the cafeteria, the bus drivers, and security, and yada yada paras, and all that. It's a huge, enormous machine, and I'm just wondering, because we're asking for mill levy. People where I work in the bull room, they're going to be like, oh, they always want more money. Blah, blah, blah. How many kids? We got 75,000, I think you said. What was it 10 years ago? So there's a comparison when we're talking to our friends and neighbors, if this goes through, as to why. Not necessarily support or not support, but to why we
Sure.
need this.
Sure. So I would say 10 years ago, we were probably closer to 90,000. So right now, what we're seeing is about 1,500 less per year. And we're budgeting that. I mean, effectively, when we build out our budget for next year, we are assuming that loss of students because we have to. Our bargaining units, our bargaining partners, JESPA and JCEA are truly, pillars of our community, right? They are truly important in this. But if someone were to ask me the why, it's to really give every opportunity. It's to give the best programming, right? I have a kindergartner. When you can put a para, I don't know if you've been in a kindergarten classroom. I would invite you all to join me. But when you have 25 kindergartners, having a para educator in that classroom, it like adds to the magic, right? When you can have reading interventionists, when we can have read programs and have people that can support kids, when we can identify kids that need help and get them help early, it means that by third grade, they're reading on grade level, which means that they can switch from learning to read to reading to learn. It allows for programming all the way up. It allows us to do, to have coaches. It allows us to have sports. It allows us to have extracurriculars. It allows us to have theater programs. It allows us to really pay our teachers and staff a living wage, which again, I come back to a lot. It's something that I hear most from our community about being concerned with. And so there's a there's always this, well, why do you need more and more and more, right? You're making these cuts. We've closed schools. Why does Jeffco need more? And the unfortunate answer is that our revenue is declining and our costs are increasing. We are identifying children with special needs earlier, which is wonderful. And there are costs associated with that, from paraeducators that support those kids to resources we have to bring in from out of district. So if you look at just one of our, and we can dig into it as much as you want, but if you look at some of our funds, our special ed funding the expenses are going up. And so when we are having declining enrollment, less revenue, more cost, and as we all know, the cost to live here is going up. So we need to continue to pay our people. So it's not one thing. It is a mix of things, but it does matter for education.
Well, yep, thanks. It's just talking to, the construction guys I work with.
Everyone.
It's very, I can empathize with, being in the bullpen with a bunch of gas fitters and linemen as to the kindergarten class. Some days it's similar. I'm just kidding, guys. I appreciate the candid, and it's a tough deal. I don't know anything that's getting cheaper. Everything's getting more and more expensive, and it's just a fact. So thanks for others.
Thank you. Councilor Martell.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Michelle, for being here. 2 questions. One is kind of a follow-up. Some things you've been talking about, and to Councilmember Quinn's question. On your presentation, you have a really great slide with really good talking points. And as a council at our retreat this weekend, we talked a lot about the storytelling behind money. And this is a great slide of what happens when a ballot measure passes. Do you have some similar talking points about what happens if it doesn't? I mean, you've talked about the cut you're already doing, but what's next?
This is the question that will get me emails tomorrow, just so you know.
I'm sorry.
No,
and
it's
you're
okay.
welcome.
It is the right question, and it's actually probably the story we need to be telling more. We will have to make more cuts. And we have, as I started with, everything we do is important. Every counselor, every secretary, every custodian, every bus driver makes a difference to our kids. I get emotional about this, so I'm sorry. And we have to be responsible with our taxpayer dollars. So things that we would be considering is, everything would be on the table at that point. And I don't want to, I'm not a fear monger. I'm a very optimistic person, but we would have to be looking at, okay, what does a work week look like? What do hours look like? We would be talking about, I hate to even say it, having to really think about hiring freezes and pay freezes and non-contact days and what those look like. And so we're really talking about the work calendar, which means we are talking about people's livelihoods. And I do not want to get there. I desperately do not want us to get there.
That makes sense. Fair. Thank you. My other question is around you anticipate 1,500 less students each year. About how much of that percentage-wise is the population decrease, the fewer children, versus choice?
That's a great question. We're really proud so our charter schools are Jeffco schools. Jeffco is the authorizing entity for our charter schools. We do have one school and one charter that authorizes through CSI. They're still a great part of our community. So every student in Jeffco is a Jeffco student. We capture over 90% of the kiddos that are in our district. And that includes our charter schools. So what it looks like really is we're always going to have people moving in and out, but it looks like smaller kindergarten classes to start with. And what that means is that as those classes go through, that's an entire 12 years of smaller class sizes. Our kindergarten classes at some schools this year are quite small. And it is something that we're watching really closely because that means that that class will continue to be small. So I would say the vast majority is incoming classes are just smaller than we expect, but we always have some transition in and out.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Councilor Okada.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, President Applegate. Thanks for the hard work and thanks for the dedication to education and the children in our community. I wanted to ask a question about kind of similar vein to Councilmember Quinn's question about that gap, that $3.5K per student gap, and how it relates to the options that you guys are considering bringing to the ballot. Those options have a measurement on it that you included in the slides of what the potential per $100,000 property value would be. Is there any conversation or thought in the other direction about what that might mean per student, those ballot measures?
I mean, that's a great question. You know, we could do some quick math at 75,000 kids, let's assume, knowing that that is declining. I could do some quick math on what 75 million would look like. Hold, please. I think the other interesting part about that is what those dollars could be used for. So a general purpose mill is exactly that. It goes straight into our general fund. The board can then say that we're going to allocate that to the capital fund, to the food services fund, to the transportation fund. A special purpose mill can only be used for capital and technology. And so the advantage there, and that's kind of something Jeffco hasn't done. We've historically done mill and bond. Two separate items that could pass or fail on their own. And our history is mixed. The bond obviously is an issuance of debt. So when you think about it, that money that we bring in, a lot of that goes to interest. So if you can say, hey, we're going to allocate this much money to capital and not take debt out, every penny goes into that capital fund. And it can only be used for those things. So the way we talk about those mills depends how it can be spent. And when we have done some very initial polling, the majority, I mean, something that really reassures my heart is that most people, when they've responded to the polls, regardless of age, regardless of political affiliation, believe in supporting comp for teachers and our support staff. So that's been really, really positive, in my opinion, in some of the initial data that we've gotten. We do plan to poll on actual ballot question and language because, as you all know, the language is the key to everything. And so that's really where we'll get into the nitty gritty. But I should be able to do this math, but it is late.
No worries. Thanks for crunching the
it's
numbers.
It's about 1,000 a kid.
Okay.
If we do the 75 million general purpose only.
Okay, cool. That does give me some context. I only just want to say also, like my neighborhood in the northwestern corner of the Northwestern District, we filled in our community, and I think we surprised the developers. I think we surprised each other. I think we surprised quite a few people with how many children there are in our community and how many people are bringing in that area. So I get a lot of questions from my neighbors about the future and what we're planning in this regard. So this helps me have some additional information, and I can help guide them on what they're thinking about in that area.
Appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go back to Mayor Pro Tem Hulteen.
Thank you. This is way more math than I thought we'd be doing tonight. To Council Martell's question about what happens if the funding doesn't come in, I think one of the important narratives and stories that has a real impact on our community, especially our specific demographics of Wheat Ridge, is, I mean, Colorado already has some of the lowest contact hours in the country. We have a lot of kids that are not at school for a lot of hours throughout the school year. There's a lot of days and hours that in other districts and other states where kids are traditionally at school. And I was recently walking with one of my neighbors whose in-laws are all in Minneapolis, and they sat down and like compared the calendars. And my neighbor was like, we have 8 more days a year that like we have to figure out who's taking time off from work, who are we paying to come to watch the kids, like how are we managing this. It might be a really good opportunity for business owners to run school camps. But the impact on our community, if we talk about reducing contact hours and taking, days off the calendar and having facility closure days and things like that, that has a real impact throughout our community. Those are families that are impacted in their ability to be wage earners and, be part of our economic vitality. It starts to really impact people's ability to take vacations and how they have the sort of freedom to live their day-to-day lives. So, keeping our kids in school aside from, the educational benefits, which I'm going to not let that just be implied, but make it explicit, like contact hours is better education. It really impacts how people are able to live their day-to-day lives. So the impact it would have to take those contact hours out of the community is pretty big impact. So
As a household with two working parents, my husband is always like, "Who decided this?" And I'm like, "Well, you married to her, so sorry about that."
yeah, and I mean, I remember when my son was in elementary school, like fortunately my husband and I had between the two of us a lot of flexibility to be able to navigate that, and we had two sets of grandparents here. I don't know how one of us would have had to not work or work very, very part-time and not been able to pursue our professional goals anyway. So I know
And we have families that do struggle with this. And so let me maybe help just add some insight there. A lot of the time when our students aren't with our teachers, are also giving our teachers planning time, development time. When we negotiate our contracts, those are something that our educators are asking for in really thoughtful ways. And if we were to move, our goal is always to minimize the impact to students. So while I am saying everything is on the table, we have districts across the state that have gone to 4 days a week in school, and it is hard. There is absolutely no doubt about it. I would envision that we would start with basically removing non-contact days from pay. So if you think about, this is not the plan right now, but what could be on the table would be things like during the summer, there is a set amount of our staff that works throughout the school year or throughout the whole calendar year. A lot of our central office, our accountants, HR people work throughout the year. We talk about it in days. So I'm going to get these slightly wrong, so bear with me. I think most of our educators work about 186 days. Most of our, what I would call central office, our principals are in the 265, 8-ish days. So that might look like during the summer, for those folks that are working the 268 days, they might only get paid 267 or 265, but we would make that during the summer. We could take the day after Thanksgiving when kids are in school and say you're off, but it's no longer a paid holiday. So make no mistake, it is still impacting the livelihoods of people in our community and our educators and our staff and our people, our 14,000 employees that live in Jefferson County. It is not great, but we would try to minimize the impact to the students.
Thank you. Counselor Snell.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for this. This is a tough position, and I appreciate you being so honest and painting a big picture for us. I just need clarification on one thing. When Councilor Okada was speaking about, you were speaking about the different types of mills. Could you go over again what certain mills could cover and not cover, please?
Yes, this slide isn't as detailed as I wish it was. So there is a general purpose mill levy override, which is that option 1, which is your standard MLO. That is a general fund. We are capped at 75 million. That is the most we could ask for. We could ask for less, but that is the most we could ask for. That mill would go to our general fund. And that gives the board the authority to put it towards teacher comp, to put it towards, we could then make a motion and a vote to transfer it to any fund. So if we needed it in the capital fund, we could transfer it there. If we needed it in transportation, if we needed it in food service, that would give us the flexibility there. When you look at option 2 up to 135, that combines the general mill levy override and a special purpose. The special purpose actually has no cap, which is a wild and crazy thing these days. But we have to be responsible and recognize that we are asking our taxpayers to shoulder these dollars. So that 135 includes the $75 million mill levy override and then a $60 million, if I did that math right, special purpose mill. And that special purpose would only be able to go towards capital and IT. So it would basically go straight into the capital fund. And our IT infrastructure is actually pretty broad and expensive. So but both of those are excellent uses for that money. And it is important to remind everyone that these are in perpetuity, right? These do not sunset, which is something that people often forget.
Councilor Martell.
Thank you. I was thinking about that answer and almost forgot my question. With the funding numbers and how our students compare to the other counties or other school districts, how is Jeffco's compensation competitive to our surrounding areas? Like, are we aggressive? Are people leaving for better comp packages? Are we able to recruit? Like, where do we stand with our neighbors?
We are still behind our neighbors. The board in its different forms over the last 3 years has made significant investments into teacher comp to recognize this, and it has been absolutely the right thing to do. It has gotten us closer. We are still behind some of our peers. And then just for a quick refresher, we agree and we negotiate a schedule. And so you'll hear steps and lanes. And so basically a lane is your education. So if you have a bachelor's degree, if you have a bachelor's plus a certain hours towards a master's, if you have a master's, if you have certain hours towards your doctorate, and if you have a doctorate. And the steps is, think years of service. It's not definitely one-to-one, but if I started today as a brand new teacher on my first year in Jeffco, I would start at lane 1, step 1. And we go down to 22 steps and 6 lanes. I think that's right. And so educators can move down this grid as they get more years of experience and as they get more education. I say that to say it depends where you look on the comparison of the chart, how we compare to other districts. So you might say at the high end, and we have amazing long tenured teachers, it's a little bit more comparable to maybe the earlier end. We do have that data. It was presented. I'd have to find where it is if you're interested.
It's just interesting on new teachers, the competitive recruiting.
It's hard.
Yeah.
And I will add that we are asking our teachers to do more than we've ever asked them to do, quite frankly. Not everybody wants to go into education the way they used to. And we are seeing shortages, and we are working really hard to hire people into our district.
Thank you.
Thank you. Another questions from council? Real quick, President Applegate, while I have you, you mentioned the 2018 bond. Is that all spent now?
Yep. The majority of it has been spent.
Okay. And I know there were some upgrades to like Wheat Ridge High School and that. Is that all been
It's
spent?
all done.
I know is it all done?
Yep, it's
Okay,
all done.
It's all done. And, you know, as I recall back, and it's been almost 10 years now, to that bond, one of the reasons I think it was successful is because it had some specific targets. It was going to go to funds, safety and school upgrades and different things like that. Is there some specific, other than just operating capital and that sort of thing with this bond that you would be asking for, or this mill, is there some specific targets with that?
We are working on that now. I will tell you the targets are going to include, you've heard me say it a lot, teacher compensation. It's probably going to include CTE. How do we develop more programs? Warren Tech's been mentioned a few times. There are tremendous wait lists for Warren Tech. Our high schools are also putting in CTE programs. That also takes funding. So CTE is something that it would likely be earmarked for. I would like to see it go to continue to support mental health. That's something that's very important to me. And security. One of the things the board has asked the district to do in light of the Evergreen shooting is to say, what is the minimum envelope of safety and security that should exist at every school at every level? And as those pieces of equipment age, how are we replacing them? How are we getting the cameras updated? How are we getting radios updated? How are we making sure that that is part of the regular capital cost of the district? So I think those are all things you could see.
Thank you. And then kind of like Counselor Quinn's question, one of the questions I get when it comes to school funding a bunch is, well, we passed marijuana a number of years ago. Where's all that money going to? Can you maybe talk about that a little bit?
That is an excellent, excellent question. Man, where to unpack that. So those are always wonderful initiatives that help to fund education. Marijuana sales have been going down and declining, really post-pandemic, and there's not as much money being generated as is the need. So yes, there is tax dollars that are going from marijuana sales to that. Absolutely. I would caution anyone that says, man, this is the solution to funding K-12. I would really question that. And you'll hear it. I'm already hearing it for initiatives that are going to come out in November. This is the solution. Well, it's a great step. And any funding is better than no funding, and any revenue is better, because really, when you think about it, $15 million helps. $9 million helps. And the marijuana taxes have not come to fruition the way that we expected. And I am concerned. I'm concerned that there's not one silver bullet that's going to help us out here.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. And I just wanted to.
Yeah. No, it's a
for everybody to
great
understand.
question.
Yeah. And you and I have talked about it before, but I know there's a lot of people in our articulation area that would have some questions. Where's Jefferson at right now? Jefferson.
That's a great question. We had asked, when we started talking about Jefferson junior, senior, the community came to us and said, please take a pause. And so the community was bringing a plan back to us. And that essentially what happens is, when you have schools, we take standardized tests. There's a lot of dynamics around whether those are good or bad, but that is one of the ways that the state measures the productivity of a school. Jefferson junior, senior is on a clock to figure out how to improve some of their test scores and get out of, we call it turnaround status. So they are actively working on those things, and their test scores are showing positive direction, which is really exciting. The community asked us for time to come back and for them to propose a new model that they would like to implement there. To date, I have not gotten an update on those discussions. It doesn't mean they're not happening with our COO and our facilities team, but the board hasn't received an update in quite a while.
Okay, thank you.
I can follow up on that though, Mayor, and get back with you.
I appreciate that. I just know there's a lot of people in the Wheat Ridge articulation area that would, because I know Jefferson would probably be moving into our articulation area. So,
correct.
And I want to say, it'll be a while till we know how this board coalesces and works together. But I want to thank you for all your hard work. I've had the opportunity to work with Jeffco on a professional. Well, obviously, I grew up in Jeffco. I went to Jeffco schools, College Trent, Everett, Wheat Ridge, and so I'm a Jeffco graduate. My kids are in Jeffco, but I also get an opportunity to work with about 25 Jeffco elementary schools, Everett Middle School usually, and Wheat Ridge High School through various things. And Jeffco schools are second to none. I've worked in a lot of schools, and we have a lot of dedicated teachers. Our principals are fantastic. I know you mentioned it a few minutes ago, but I can tell you, especially in Wheat Ridge, our articulation principals are fantastic. And myself and several others in our community back in 2017, I know Guy Namiosh, Leah Dozman, Katie Zabak, myself, had an opportunity to work in our articulation area with all the schools. We put together this great plan for all the schools to work together, and somewhere about 5 days later or something like that, I don't know if they lost the plan or it just never came to fruition or what, but so it was really frustrating to spend 3 days putting that plan together. And what I'm seeing now through the Wheat Ridge Coalition for Education and working with Lisa at Wheat Ridge High School, she's a fantastic point person for this, but getting all of our schools on the same page and really working together to make sure that we have a strong articulation area. So our elementary schools are working now. Prospect Valley for a long time and had an open middle school night where they invited middle schools from all across the district to come in and present to the fifth graders. They no longer do that. They now just have an Everett night, and the kind of expectation is you're welcome to go look at other middle schools, but our kids go to Everett. And I think that's really important as we start to look at this articulation area and the strength. It's making sure that our elementary schools kind of program to our middle school, who then program to our high school, who's doing a phenomenal job. Whether you talk about CTE, the career programs, whether it be the STEM program, and I did mention this earlier, but our STEM program was out participating this weekend in the eco competition again. They do a phenomenal job. Or Gone Boarding, which I'm sure you've heard of, and the investment that our community is putting into Wheat Ridge High School to really now, just my critique of maybe Jeffco is that they've given a lot to Golden, they've given a lot to Lakewood as far as the high school goes, and they've kind of held a lot back from Wheat Ridge. And it's nice to see our high school fighting for those dollars and that recognition. But I'd love to see that from our district a little bit more, that they recognize what Wheat Ridge High School specifically is doing, because they're doing a lot to pull themselves up and not having it give it to them, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. And I would add, all of our articulation area elementary schools in Wheat Ridge, actually, all the fifth graders take a bus to Everett. They have an Everett day during school. They get to go through the class periods. And Everett and Wheat Ridge are really working on how do you leverage the assets that Everett has, like an amazing shop program and a great STEM lab, and serve a community of kids up and down. So there's, the principals are doing a tremendous job really building those next level interactions, to where I know a lot of the kids at my kids' elementary school will go to Wheat Ridge High School for things, and we get invited to the football games, and it comes out in our Friday folders, and there's a definite push to build a community, and it's really recognized.
One of my favorite things I get to do at the end of the school year, and Councilor Larson was there with us last year, I think, and actually, and Councilor Snell, is we get to go present to all the kindergartners, and I'm sure we'll see your daughter here this year with Future Farmer shirts in the class of whatever their future. And this year, I think we're trying to add Everett dates on there as well, so that they'll have an idea of when they get out of Everett and go to Wheat Ridge High School. So we're trying to build that future pacing with those kids. So. Yeah, and all the counselors, we'll let you guys know on the dates on that, but it's
really fun.
Getting an opportunity to hang out with a bunch of kindergartners is
They're the best.
Other than a district meeting, sometimes can be about the same. So, but a lot of fun, and so we really appreciate that. So, but thank you to all the work that you and the school board is doing, and all the administrators and staff for our kids. So.
Well, and the appreciation is mutual. Our COO works with your city manager all the time, and we really appreciate that. And I will tell you, if there are questions, please reach out. We really value the work that you all do. We are ultimately partners in this work, so we're here to serve you all too. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Goff, do we have anything else this evening?
That's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you again, President Applegate. We don't get many presidents in here. That's kind of nice. Do we have any other business before the council tonight? Seeing none, we will go ahead and adjourn. We'll be back here 1 week from tonight on the 20th for a study session.